I know I don't usually do this. The show is tomorrow. But with the news of Baker Mayfield's injury, it makes me want to be able to uh, talk a little about this. The things that I'm posting on Twitter seem to be creating a suicidal death watch on the Cleveland Browns, and that's not the intention. The intention is to try to educate people what the injury is. So, what we're going to do here is go over stuff that I just don't have time to go over tomorrow because we've got other things we need to talk about as far as the game against the Chargers is concerned. But what I've already tweeted was just a comment that this will affect Baker Mayfield's contract negotiations, which for him is kind of, even though he said it wasn't a big deal to him, will become a big deal. And we'll find out why in just a minute. The next part of the equation is the unnecessary blame that Baker Mayfield gets from half of the Cleveland Browns fan base, even when something is not his fault. Three, being a tough guy, trying to make a tackle after throwing an interception. It didn't work for Brett Favre, and it really doesn't work for Baker Mayfield, and that's how the injury was caused. What we want to look at is what injury does he have, and it is very, very likely a slap tear. And I'm not going to get all medical on y'all, but what it boils down to is that it is not an injury that will heal by itself. And the reason is the vascular situation in that part of the body. There are some parts of the body where blood flow is very prevalent, and it allows you to heal. There are other parts of your body that are very slow or impossible to heal because the blood flow through that area is minimal. And the whole rotator cuff, if your right arm, that would be up and through here, okay, and even up in here, you would feel pain if you had a rotator a cuff tear. A slap tear is something that can be caused by a forceful incident, much like Baker Mayfield had, which was an abrupt force that was put on his shoulder when he went to the ground to try to start making a move to try to become a defender after an interception that he threw. The upshot of the injury is that if it can't heal on its own, it requires surgery. The fact that it's on his non-throwing arm is the reason why Baker Mayfield is still playing. If it were in his throwing arm, he would not be playing and the season would be over for him. All right, there would be no contraption, no device, no harness or anything like that that would spare him the knife. Now, so that you understand the significance of this as far as Baker Mayfield's contract or non-contract is concerned, this particular procedure, which is not an uncommon procedure, does take upwards of 9 months, possibly a year in some people. But with an athlete, you're looking at a 9-month recovery from having that reattached. If it's not fully torn, which we're told it's a partial tear, but still, if you need arthroscopic surgery, what will happen is if you try to heal it on your own, it will heal unevenly and it will make that tendon resistant as far as it'll make it more easy to hurt again and tear. It will not come back strong. Consequently, what we're looking at for Baker Mayfield is off-season surgery. No question about it in my mind. And it would not hinder or hurt his professional career, but it would put him in rehab for 9 months, which is nothing compared to Josh Gordon, who's been in rehab for about 7 years. Different rehab. So here's the deal. The Browns are playing Baker Mayfield because they're obviously no more sold on Case Keenum than I am. And they don't think that their backup quarterback can get a job done as well as the one-armed Baker Mayfield. Baker going in there and throwing. This is the next thing I wanted, so I don't have to go over this in tomorrow's program. The crap that Baker Mayfield takes from the news media and from half of the fan base makes me want to vomit. The first thing we go to when Baker has a bad game is, same old Baker, he never comes through. No, he has a problem with pressure, and all that. It's more than that. He's wearing a harness. I know, the Budweiser Clydesdales did too. The problem is the nature of the symptoms of the slap tear, which I will share with you from two noted sources. The ortho information, which is from the Arthroscopic and Orthopedic Society, will give these particular symptoms: a sensation of locking, popping, catching, or grinding. Anybody, if you've had any kind of knee issues where you've had cartilage tears, will relate to that. Pain with movement of the shoulder or with holding the shoulder in specific positions. This is the one that probably makes it more difficult for Baker Mayfield to throw with the kind of confidence that he wants to throw in. If you're, and I'm not looking at myself here, but I mean, if you're delivering the ball overhanded like this arm has to do something. It just doesn't hold back at your side. It would be no different than a baseball pitcher. You're actually utilizing both arms in a range of motion kind of sense. So when you go back to pass and you see your non-throwing arm is up, anything that raises your arm is going to cause difficulty. Pain with lifting objects, especially overhead. Just the overhead motion will cause discomfort. A decrease in shoulder strength. Well, I mean, that's not going to matter much because he doesn't throw with his left hand. A feeling that the shoulder is going to pop out of the joint. This becomes as we'll point out in a minute, the other major problem that Baker is going to be facing. A decreased range of motion in general, and which means that if he keeps trying to make the motion with the arm, it'll continue hurting. And if you're a baseball pitcher, of course, a total decrease in your velocity of the ball, but that's not going to affect Baker again because it's his off arm. I went to another particular site and a sports health site on the internet. And again, certain shoulder activities, such as lifting objects overhead, throwing a baseball, or hitting a tennis ball, I know about that one, may cause pain. Other causes of pain include holding the shoulder in certain positions, including extending the arm to lift an object. So any extension of that tendon is going to cause discomfort. Stretching the arm behind the head or placing the arm in a throwing position. And I'm doing this with my left because that's where the injury is. So, what is the danger of this? Well, for one thing, it hinders the Browns' chances of getting into the playoffs. And let me explain why. The greater danger is not playing Baker Mayfield. The danger is Baker Mayfield getting hit. And a force into that left side of his body where he gets hit in this area could fully tear that area, and the pain would be bad, okay? It would only make whatever problem that he's having now far worse. The thing that scares me most is that our offensive line has been going through week by week, sitting on the sidelines and not practicing so much in order to keep their bodies healthy. That would be J.C. Treader. And God only knows our left tackle, who protects the blind side of Baker Mayfield, who is uncertain. They're uncertain whether he's going to even play because he's had an ankle now for about 3 weeks, a sprained ankle. So, will Jedrick Wills even play? If he doesn't play, then you have to turn to Chris Hubbard if he can play, or to James Hudson III, and he's got to line up face to face with Joey Bosa. These types of scenarios, and we know Conklin has a history of issues as well. So any more bad news on our offensive line limits our ability to protect the quarterback. And from the quarterback's blind side, this is how you get hit when Joey Bosa runs around the corner, and Jedrick Wills, if he is playing on his one leg, will end up letting him go around the outside, and Baker will get blindsided directly on that shoulder. That is the main threat to Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns. It's not that he goes back and tries to throw. He may be less accurate, but they feel they have a better chance with his understanding and knowledge of the offense than a full-strength Case Keenum. That is a coaching decision. I saw Case Keenum, and I would tend to agree. How long you can play Baker? How long can he endure pain? Those are the questions you don't know. But you do know this, that the game plan will take into account that Baker Mayfield cannot stand back in the pocket for long periods of time, that he has to use check down receivers, which we talked about what he didn't do last week, which is the absolute worst thing he can do. The Browns will likely become more of a ball control offense, trying to run the ball and trying to move the chains. If you're a head coach, you may take a few shots downfield if they come into pure press coverage, because, again, the world doesn't live in a vacuum. Everybody knows that Baker Mayfield now has a labral tear, and this will change the way the defense plays. Just like the way we played against Justin Fields was based upon his inexperience, what we wind up with is the Chargers defense is going to be primed to come and put pressure and on Baker Mayfield. We have to be able to run the football to take that pressure off of him, but also we have to put receivers in a position on the field where they're in quick communication with the quarterback, so he is not a sitting duck inside or outside the pocket. So the thing that bothers me most is that people immediately thought the worst of Baker Mayfield and that, oh, he's regressed back. Well, he's been bad since he had the injury. Before that, he got us into the playoffs. He played 5 great games in a row. He played a really good game against Kansas City as well. It was just a shame that the team came up a little short in that one. It also emphasizes, if you want to be positive about this, just how fantastically the Cleveland Browns defense has played the last 2 weeks to win football games with Baker Mayfield in this condition. The other thing is that by continuing to play, whatever discomfort that he's experiencing, he's going to continue to experience. And whatever it is, as far as the harness is concerned, might be in order to immobilize this, much like in a separated shoulder scenario, may keep the motion out of this particular area, but it might kind of mummify him so that when he wants to go back to throw, and that rotation of lifting the elbow, that may be messing him up mechanically. If you watch this program, the thing that I noticed that his footwork wasn't right, and it would make sense because if his upper body mechanics aren't right, then the lower body mechanics aren't going to be there, and vice versa. I wanted to also point out something that Ben Roethlisberger said that I actually saw last year in our playoff win against the Steelers, was that Ben said he watched footage, and the footage that he saw was the footage of the last foot being dragged into the men's room. No, seriously. The footage that he was watching of himself was that he's dropping his elbow. And if you notice, we knocked a bunch of passes, tipped them up in the air. The one that Porter Gustin intercepted in the playoffs last year, tipped at the line of scrimmage. I've been watching Ben play this year, and his arm angle is much lower than it was in the past. And these are things that your body does to protect itself. Now, why would he be having a difficulty in his right arm, raising his right arm? Well, for one thing, he's complaining about hip problems, and his arm, his shoulder was injured. And you come back, but if you don't regain the same form that you had before, everything gets thrown off. So I don't see anybody basically saying, "Oh, Ben Roethlisberger, get rid of him," except for Steeler fans. I want Ben out there. The Steeler fans are, let me pick my nose. These types of injuries tend to lend themselves to other types of issues that are compensatory in nature. And I can guarantee you that however long Baker makes it, whether he makes it through the entire season, half the season, or whatever, he's going to have to get the arthroscopic surgery, and then he will come back and be able to play. I want to point out that people who are already writing an obituary for Baker Mayfield's career, to really, if you have like a rather large backyard, and it's very private, go back there and fuck yourself. Because this has nothing to do with his ability to forge forward and be a successful quarterback. And I'm not going to convince you that he's good if you're convinced that he's not good. But I will tell you this, the Browns win with him. And they have managed to win with him even through the last two games. And tomorrow's game, of course, Sunday's game is going to be burdensome. Let's just put it that way. I just, we don't have a very good left tackle. One guy on one leg, another guy who's coming off a triceps injury, whether he can play or not is not yet known. And James Hudson, you think Justin Fields looked bad against the Browns, putting a rookie in against Joey Bosa. It'd be a very difficult thing. And, it's going to require chipping Bosa. We're going to have to keep, some of the guys who go out in the pattern, guys like, Kareem Hunt, are going to have to put a body on Bosa to slow him down. And that's only if other players don't get through as well. So there are going to be severe limitations. So I guess the reason I'm doing this program is so I don't have to go over all this tomorrow. And when we talk about the game planning, strategies, how the Browns can win, what's the best way, and we will already be taking this into account. And I'm not going to sit and whine about it. I'm not going to cry about it. It's unfortunate. It seems that what I predicted for Lamar Jackson is happened to Baker Mayfield. And again, quarterbacks get dinged up all the time. This is part of what happens in football, and it's why you need a solid backup. The only thing is that what I'm seeing with the Browns is that the reason Jedrick Wills is playing with on one leg is because the people who are behind him, especially Hubbard, he physically couldn't play. And you saw what the problem is with Hudson. You saw Hance being literally, Hance looks like a human blocking sled, just going backwards, being pushed back into the quarterback. He doesn't have the footwork and leverage part of his game down. And, how could he? The problem is pass coverage. I think as far as our running offense, Hance did a pretty good job on run blocking, but the pass blocking, not good at all. But the coaching staff knows that there's nothing behind Jedrick Wills. And if Jedrick Wills is better than the people who are behind him playing on one leg, we can only imagine that that's what the organization is pushing. And it's a dangerous thing to do because it pushed Jedrick Wills' career in jeopardy because of creating the possibility of creating an ongoing chronic injury in him. This is what it is, and nobody's happy about it unless you're a Baker Mayfield hater, and I'm sure that, and I'm purposely not watching all the, the Colin Cowherds of the world and, And I'm purposely not watching Bart Scott, the cocksucking motherfucker. Like, I need an ex-Raven analyzing my quarterback. What he needs is to get analyzed and to get checked out for CTE. Bart Scott is a fucking loser. And I don't like announcers who are like biased toward their previous teams. It's a drag, you know? Other than that, I'm going to see you guys, and I'll be back tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Moohead Radio, and we'll talk about what the best chance the Cleveland Browns have on Sunday's game, and we'll talk a little bit more about what the Chargers have accomplished this year and what the Browns are going to have to do to try to offset some of those things. Thanks a lot for listening to this, and don't be sitting there losing your composure about the Baker thing. Injuries happen in football. The important thing now is that we protect him to the best of our ability, and not just with the men up front, but in the game plan. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.